For more, we're going to take you live to Miami right now with meteorologist Mike Seidel covering it for us. Mike, we're just in the first few innings of this. We've got a long way to go before it ends.
We do, and you can see all the heavy rain down through the Keys. In fact, we've got that special marine warning for the Almorada area on A1A. Could be some water spouts down there. Very heavy rain. Everything is moving off to the north and west, so everything's going to come up our way eventually. Right now, the rain is not particularly hard here in the Brickell area, just off the causeway over to Key Biscayne. Enough, obviously, to get the wipers on. Miami International's had about 1.25 inches so far today. That's what we want to see. We want to see the rain spread out evenly. So we get some heavy rain for an hour, maybe 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and then it backs off. And it can drain out nicely with these sandy soils. And then we get some more heavy rain. We don't need a repeat of what we had back on April 12th when the airport in Fort Lauderdale was shut down. The runways were underwater. They had almost 2 feet. They had 2 feet of rainfall, and they're ready up there in Broward County. We went out to Key Biscayne earlier to check out the surf. We also ran into some young ladies who are checking off the national parks and, of course, are concerned with the weather at each park.
Me and my best friend are down here trying to hit Everglades National Park and Biscayne National Park in our adventure and knocking off all of the 63 national parks. It's a beautiful day. We couldn't ask for anything better. It's not perfect for getting out in the water to do some paddleboarding, but we'll get what we can. So I have everything you could imagine in my bag. Yes, I've got winter coats with me, I've got raincoats, I've got everything. We've been all over the country to include Alaska, getting the parks. We already did Dry Tortuga, so I had similar weather out there a few years ago. And you do what you can, you know? It makes the trip even better, I think, when you got to deal with Mother Nature. It's part of it.
Wow, what a cool trip. Those ladies going to all the national parks. I can tell you the waves were crashing on the seawall and on the causeway. This is video I shot late this morning here in Miami. That's Key Biscayne, or I should say the causeway over to Key Biscayne. This is Biscayne Bay, and we've got some chop out there, some white caps, and that's because we've had wind gusts 25 to 30 miles an hour. We could get some wind gusts 35 to 40 miles an hour tonight and tomorrow morning. So again, heavy rain overnight. The flood watch goes until midday tomorrow. We could see another 3 to 6 inches of rainfall on top of the 1 to 3 we've already had. So again, watch out for the localized flooding. Turn around, don't drown, and if you have to drive tonight, just be very, very careful. We'll keep you updated here on the Weather Channel, on Dr. Nab and Mike Bettis on the flash flood warning. So far, none have been issued. That will likely change, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that we can spread the rain out evenly and get through this, because the weekend here, Dr. Nab, is going to be spectacular for mid to late November.
Our Mike Seidel live from Miami. We'll come back to you in a little while as the conditions will be getting worse.
Let's get a look at how conditions have unfolded here in South Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel is joining us live in Miami tonight. And, you know, Mike, how have conditions been so far today? We know the rain started to arrive a few hours ago. What does it look like out there right now?
No, so far so good, because the rainfall rates have been unimpressive. With that said, last hour at Miami International, just a little bit to our north and west, they had 0.19 of an inch. The previous 3 hours, they had just over 1/3 of an inch. So those numbers, those values are not going to cause real serious flash flooding. We've had no flash flood warnings. Let's hope we can keep it that way all night, but that seems unlikely, because look at the radar and look what's coming up from the Keys. Everything is moving north and northwest. There's some very heavy rain down around the Keys. We've got those marine warnings for potential water spouts, and that's all coming up our way. And it's just a matter of time before we get the heavy rainfall. Right now, we're looking out here at Brickell as it gets dark here in South Florida, and it's raining moderately, but not heavily. Winds have gusted over 30 miles an hour. In fact, Lauderdale last hour gusted to 44 miles an hour. So we have that component. That's why we have the big surf out on the beaches there, on the Atlantic beaches, 6 to 8 footers. That's going to continue into tomorrow. As the storm pulls away, this rain will shut down nicely tomorrow morning. In the meantime, we were out at Key Biscayne earlier. That's just over the causeway, and then you hook a left and a right, and ran into a young lady where the red flags were flying, and we asked her about what her concern was being here from out of town.
Well, checking the weather and kind of like being flexible, planning some things, but leaving a lot of space for change, and just looking at the weather and coming prepared. Like we brought rain jackets, we brought stuff to keep us dry, understanding what is acceptable risk and what isn't. Like we certainly wouldn't go out on the water today with the conditions.
Yeah, you can see that surf there. It is ramped up, and the rain continues to ramp up slowly, Chris and Jackie. But again, it is certainly not raining an inch an hour. That's when you get the concern. An inch an hour over 2 or 3 hours. Then you run into the flash flood issues like we had back in April. That was a whole different animal, though. We had 25 inches in Lauderdale in about 4 or 5 hours. So we'll keep you updated from here. The flood watch goes until lunchtime tomorrow here in South Florida. And the biggest area of concern are the metro urban areas up and down 95 and US 1 Federal Highway from the Palm Beaches down to Homestead. That is the area where we have the concrete and the asphalt and the runoff. So a lot to kind of take in tonight. But again, the best bet is if you don't have to travel tonight, once you get home from work, stay home and just, hunker down, watch some TV. And then tomorrow morning, this will all be out of here. And unless we have a major rainfall like we did back in April, let's hope not, the water will drain off, and we should be in pretty good shape by 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning here in South Florida. But then again, the rain will work up the coast during the day. So those of you from Vero Beach North, the rain will continue through the afternoon and then farther up the coast into Thursday evening. Back to Atlanta.
Hey.
We'll keep you updated from here in South Florida.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask a question because we go towards this evening and timing it out based on the radar right now. Looks like the heaviest rain could be around dinner time. That's near high tide. How much of this coastal flooding could make the flash flood potential worse if this all times out, around 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight?
Yeah, there's going to be some issues in those low-lying areas. We also have the astronomical tide, the king tide, with the new moon, was it a couple days ago or last night? I think 2 days ago. So, yes, there is that coastal flood advisory up. So if you're in a flood-prone area, but basically it's going to be minor coastal flooding, and we're not going to have any water going over the causeway here. But you know the rules, especially when the wind is howling. We had waves crashing over the wall as we went over the causeway this afternoon and came back. So it's all there on the table tonight as we get what I'd like to call, Chris, kind of a Florida version of a nor'easter blowing up and heading up the coast tomorrow night and into Friday.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you with some of that heavier rain.
Let's get a look at how conditions have unfolded here in South Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel is joining us live in Miami tonight. And, Mike, how have conditions been so far today? We know the rain started to arrive a few hours ago. What does it look like out there right now?
No, so far so good because the rainfall rates have been unimpressive. With that said, last hour at Miami International, just a little bit to our north and west, they had 19/100ths of an inch. The previous 3 hours, they had just over 1/3 of an inch. So those numbers, those values are not going to cause real serious flash flooding. We've had no flash flood warnings. Let's hope we can keep it that way all night, but that seems unlikely because look at the radar and look what's coming up from the Keys. Everything is moving north and northwest. There's some very heavy rain down around the Keys. We've got those marine warnings for potential waterspouts, and that's all coming up our way. And it's just a matter of time before we get in the heavy rainfall. Right now, we're looking out here, Brickell, as it gets dark here in South Florida, and it's raining moderately, but not heavily. Winds have gusted over 30 miles an hour. In fact, Lauderdale last hour gusted to 44 miles an hour. So we have that component. That's why we have the big surf out on the beaches there, on the Atlantic beaches, 6 to 8 footers. That's going to continue into tomorrow. As the storm pulls away, this rain will shut down nicely tomorrow morning. In the meantime, we were out at Key Biscayne earlier. That's just over the causeway, and then you hook a left and a right, and ran into a young lady where the red flags were flying, and we asked her about what her concern was being here from out of town.
Well, checking the weather and kind of like being flexible, planning some things, but leaving a lot of space for change, and just looking at the weather and coming prepared. Like we brought rain jackets, we brought stuff to keep us dry, understanding what is acceptable risk and what isn't. Like we certainly wouldn't go out on the water today with the conditions.
Yeah, you can see that surf there. It is ramped up, and the rain continues to ramp up slowly, Chris and Jackie. But again, it is certainly not raining an inch an hour. That's when you get the concern. An inch an hour over 2 or 3 hours, then you run into the flash flood issues like we had back in April. That was a whole different animal, though. We had 25 inches in Lauderdale in about 4 or 5 hours. So we'll keep you updated from here. The flood watch goes until lunchtime tomorrow here in South Florida, and the biggest area of concern are the metro urban areas up and down 95 and US 1 Federal Highway from the Palm Beaches down to Homestead. That is the area where we have the concrete and the asphalt and the runoff. So a lot to kind of take in tonight. But again, the best bet is if you don't have to travel tonight, once you get home from work, stay home and just, hunker down, watch some TV. And then tomorrow morning, this will all be out of here. And unless we have a major rainfall like we did back in April, let's hope not, the water will drain off, and we should be in pretty good shape by 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning here in South Florida. But then again, the rain will work up the coast during the day. So those of you from Vero Beach North, the rain will continue through the afternoon and then farther up the coast into Thursday evening. Back to Atlanta.
Hey.
We'll keep you updated from here in South Florida.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask a question because we go towards this evening and timing it out based on the radar right now. Looks like the heaviest rain could be around dinner time. That's near high tide. How much of this coastal flooding could make the flash flood potential worse if this all times out, around 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight?
Yeah, there's going to be some issues in those low-lying areas. We also have the astronomical tide, the king tide, with the new moon, was it a couple days ago or last night? I think 2 days ago. So, yes, there is that coastal flood advisory up. So if you're in a flood-prone area, but basically it's going to be minor coastal flooding, and we're not going to have any water going over the causeway here. But you know the rules, especially when the wind is howling. We had waves crashing over the wall as we went over the causeway this afternoon and came back. So it's all there on the table tonight as we get what I'd like to call, Chris, kind of a Florida version of a nor'easter blowing up and heading up the coast tomorrow night and into Friday.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you. And some of that heavy rain is moving into the Miami area. We're going to get to Mike Seidel here in just a moment. I've been watching him here. And in fact, let's just go ahead and go to Mike right now.
Yeah, I want to see what things look like there in Miami, Mike.
Yes, gentlemen and Jackie, we are here in South Miami at Brickell and the Causeway, and the rain has picked up. I can give you an example. Miami International, not that far away, just to our north and west. They picked up 19/100ths of an inch in the 4 p.m. hour, but in the 5 p.m. hour, they picked up 45/100ths of an inch. So they went roughly from 2/10 of an inch to 5/10 of an inch, a ½ inch of rainfall. So they've increased the rainfall rate by 2.5 times. So we are getting heavier rainfall rates, but again, a ½ inch an hour. If that's consistent, we don't have to worry about extreme flash flooding. It's when you get 1 to 2 inches an hour for 2 or 3 hours, then you have the issues. We're out here at Brickell and the Causeway, and you can see the wind whipping the rain. We are blocked from the wind. It's coming right in from the east and northeast, so we've got gusts out on the coast so far, upwards of 40 to 45 miles an hour. But it has been a rocky commute because of the rain and the wind, and also all the standing water. It's raining everywhere in South Florida. It's not like yesterday where Lauderdale got 2 3/4 for a record rainfall, and down here in Miami, they didn't get hardly anything. So it's widespread, as you can see on the radar. It is raining pretty much everywhere. And what we're watching with concern is what's going on in the Keys and what's coming up this way from the Keys and off the coast into Biscayne Bay and where we are here in South Florida. Red flags up there at the Florida Lighthouse there at Key Biscayne. And we found one gentleman who did not have to go to work today because of this weather.
Our job got shut down. So we had the whole day to kill, so we figured out we'd go see the lighthouse there. Oh, it was pretty windy. We got up to the 30th floor to go secure some tools because of the wind, and it about swept us off our feet. We're going to see if it continues like this, then we're not going to work tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Well, there you go. Too much wind, a lot of construction projects shut down. I noticed they're building a huge condo over here just behind us, and the cranes were locked down today. They weren't using the cranes with these winds, especially as you go up. Remember, wind generally increases with height in the atmosphere. So, Chris and Jackie, a rainy night, and it could become a dangerous night depending on how these rainfall rates pick up, and if they stay over the same area, it's really impossible to predict whether a spot's going to get 5 inches of rain or 9 or 10 inches of rain because we're not sure. Even the high-res models can't predict exactly where we're going to get the training. But I can tell you for one thing, it's raining much harder than it was an hour ago, and that was proven by those rainfall totals at MIA.
Mike, it looked like you had some training going on right behind you with a couple of runners there, but also right behind you, they went the other direction, just kind of cruised by. They're wearing shorts, too. But, Mike, now that it's dark and with the rain that's behind you, we're seeing the headlights of the vehicles really showing us the rain. And it looks like the rain's coming in sheets or in waves. Has it been windy and gusty the whole time you've been there, or is it just more obvious now that it's darker and we have more lights?
Probably also because it is darker, but it's been windy all day. I was out on the causeway this morning, and we had gusts over 30 miles an hour. Now we're gusting over 40. Again, where we're standing, we're protected. When you get out farther out here, you've got the wind coming off Biscayne Bay down the causeway right into the intersection. And so you're getting the windswept rain. Also, you get the reflection. You can see there's a lot of standing water. And remember, you don't have to be going 70 or even 60 miles an hour to hydroplane. You can hydroplane at 30 miles an hour, especially if you're going down a hill, and especially if you hit your brakes. So do be careful, get home and get safe, be safe, and we'll keep an eye on the rainfall rates, guys, and Jackie, and also keep an eye on the south and see if we see any of that lightning. There's a lot of lightning down through the upper and middle Keys, but so far we haven't seen any flashes in the distance, but we do expect some of that in the coming hours.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, thank you so much.
Heavy rain pounding South Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel. We're at Brickell and the causeway, the Rickenbacker, going over to Key Biscayne. And look at the roadway tonight. This is not your best driving weather. The roads are passable, and there's certainly ponding. There's plenty of water running down the gutters, about 2 or 3 inches. We haven't had consistent heavy rain, but we're getting it now. So we'll have to see what happens in the next 2 to 3 hours if this continues to add up and cause issues, and they'll have to issue some flash flood warnings. But we've not only got the rain, but we have the wind. We're protected here, but that wind's coming off Biscayne Bay, gusting over 40 miles an hour. We've got big waves out there. We've got the heavy surf advisory going into tomorrow. What I kind of, describe this as to people I've been talking to today, friends checking in, kind of describing it as a nor'easter, kind of like a mini nor'easter, because we've got northeast winds, a lot of heavy rainfall. This is not going to be anything tropical in nature, but you got everything else. You got the coastal flooding issues, you got the high surf, and you have the heavy rainfall. So, Chris, that's what I'm kind of describing it as, because it's not going to get a name. And it certainly is very warm tonight. Our temperatures in the 70s, but the rainfall totals are going to just add insult to injury. By the way, the reason we're not getting rainfall updates from Fort Lauderdale, I noticed this morning the rain gauge went out of service about 9 a.m., and I touched base with the weather service in Miami, and they said they were going to have a technician head over there. Right now, it's still not working. And if you remember back on April 12th when they had 2 feet of rain, Chris, it also stopped working, and they had to kind of extrapolate the numbers from a very close rain gauge to the airport runway. So we'll see if they get that back up and running. But I can guarantee you by now they have set their wettest year on record, which is over 102.5 inches of rainfall. Their average rainfall in a year, 30-year average, is about 60.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And earlier today, it was just like an inch left to go, a little bit more, less than an inch and a half. So it'd be hard to imagine that it didn't set that record. So, Mike, thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you frequently.
All right, so let's get ground truth of what it's like, because every time we check in with Mike Seidel, he seems to be getting wetter, and the rain seems to be even heavier. It's just persistent, Mike. We're not really getting a break at all.
No, we didn't expect that. Yesterday we were talking about this, and it was going to rain consistently at various intensities. So I got the 7 p.m. ob in. This is a rainfall that fell between 6 and 7 at nearby Miami International, 0.79, so just over 3/4 of an inch. The hour before that, it was just under a half an inch. So we have increased the rainfall rate by about a double. But again, we're able to handle it. They don't have a flash flood warning out. The Weather Service in Miami didn't think it was necessary. We have the flood advisories out for a good deal of Miami-Dade and Broward counties until 8:30 this evening. That's for potentially, or what we've seen here right at this intersection in Brickell in South Florida, what we would term some urban flooding and ponding. Water running down the gutters 2 or 3 inches deep. You can see the rainfall in the intersection, the wind blowing it, the gust over 30 miles an hour coming off Biscayne Bay right into where we're standing. Fortunately, it's not 40 degrees, but it's in the 70s, so it's not that bad out here. A cold, windy rain is basically, you ask Jackie or Chris, that's really the worst weather to stand in. So what we're watching on the radar is the rain coming in, pivoting in from the south and southeast. Rain remains to be seen if we sustain 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates. Our fingers are crossed. That's not the case. We have the issues we have now with the standing water in areas and some ponding, and then we get through the rest of this evening and the early hours of Thursday morning in at least decent shape. We don't have the impact that we had back on April 12th. And then remember again in July, we had another 6.5 at Lauderdale, but near Lauderdale, they had another night of 15 to 18 inches of rainfall. So it's been an eventful year for extreme rainfall events, including the one in April with 25 inches in Lauderdale. Here in Miami, not quite as wet. We're now up to about 73.5 to 74 inches so far in 2023. Their average rainfall in an entire year is 67. So they're running above average, but not nearly as far above average as Lauderdale. Their average is about 60 over the past 30 years, and they're now at 102 to 103. Meanwhile, the west coast of Florida is in an extreme drought. The Tampa Bay area even dry down towards Naples and Fort Myers. So they've gotten some beneficial rainfall, and they've even gotten some rain the past day or so in the Florida Panhandle, where a lot of the Florida Panhandle is also in an extreme drought. So depending on where you are, but here in South Florida, they've had more than enough rainfall, and more is on the way, guys, and it will continue into the early hours of Thursday morning. Again, just keeping an eye on the rainfall rates as that rain pivots in off the Atlantic. We've got the convergence of moisture from the Gulf and the Atlantic coming right into where we're standing here in Miami.
Seidel, you cannot convince me that that weather is anything but miserable. I don't care if it's 42 or 72. It still looks miserable, although the colder the rain, the worse I think it is.
I don't know, Mike, about you. Last time I was in that position, sorry to interrupt, but I had a hot tub waiting for me in Maine. But it was like 60, and it was all day. I don't know, do you have that opportunity? I don't know if they have hot tubs in South Florida. You don't really need them.
No, I don't stay in the upscale hotels that you and Cantor stay in. I try to save the company some money. So my hotel room tonight is about $125. So no hot tub waiting for me that I know of.
Well, we hope you get a nice warm cup of like chamomile tea or something like that.
But Mike, I did want to ask you, from what you've been talking to people today. You've talked to people on the beach. You know, have people been aware of the wet weather that they've been dealing with, or are they kind of shocked by how wet this storm has been?
When we came in yesterday, we were talking to the locals and the folks that work at the hotel, and they saw a weather channel. Whoa, there's a pretty good gust. Came around the corner here, across the banyan trees. They were like, Weather Channel, what's going on? What are we missing? Hurricane, tropical storm, and then we let them know it's nothing tropical in nature, but we're going to get a lot of rain. So, you know, it depends on where you get your information from and how tied in you are into the weather. But no, we haven't talked to anybody that was overly concerned. They just knew it was going to be a rainy, windy Wednesday and Wednesday night. I think a lot of folks looking forward to the weekend down here because it's going to be spectacular. Highs around 80, sunshine, comfortable humidity, and South Florida and the Keys, basically the only beaches in the continental United States right now where water temperatures are still above 80 degrees. So that's a plus too.
Tub,
a lot
Mike.
of folks won't get in the water when it's
evening swim.
No, yeah, with a rip current issue and waves breaking 6 to 10 feet, you're not my friend. You're not my friend.
Protect your body of water. Those waves, you can't see them that well
We've
that night.
seen the waves upside down. They are rough, and they'll be that way for the next day or two.
We are back live here in South Miami tonight following the threat for flash flooding. So far, so good. We've got the flood advisories up for a good deal of Broward and here in Miami-Dade counties. They go till 8:30. We have the flood warning for the Upper Keys, the Key Largo area, Cardstown Road getting south of Homestead. Some areas in the Middle Keys have had over 6 inches of rain today. That flood warning goes until 9 p.m. But here in South Florida, we've had rain, heavy at times. But this is basically what you're seeing. Yeah, we've got ponding, we've got water running down the side of the streets, we've got some puddles in the parking lots, but that is the worst of it. I guess the worst of it is if you're driving, make sure you slow down because you can hydroplane at speeds of 30 or 35 miles an hour. You don't have to even be going 50 or 60 miles an hour. In the past 3 hours through 7 Eastern, Miami International has had about 1.5 inches of rainfall. Last hour, 79 hundredths. So the rainfall rate has been picking up, but we're not getting the 1 to 2 inches an hour for successive hours. That's what kicks in the flash flooding and also a potential flash flood emergency. But so far, Chris, that has not been happening, and we're thankful for that. And we're hoping that we can get through this the next 4 or 5 hours here in Miami and Fort Lauderdale without any significant impacts. Also remember down here, the soil is very sandy, so it tends to drain off very nicely. So far so good. Still got to keep your guard up through the early hours of Thursday morning to see how things stack up and if we get any training over one specific area for, say, 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, thank you so much. We'll get back to you in just a moment.
All right, well, meteorologist Mike Seidel gives us some ground truth as to what he's been dealing with all night. It's been a super soaker, it seems like. Rain has picked up a little bit, it looks like, from the last shot. Wind has been an issue there as well. Sounds windy out there, Mike. What's it like?
Yeah, it's gotten a little windier right now, whipping down the causeway. And, yes, the airport did report heavy rain over the past hour. They picked up 68 hundredths of an inch. I was calling it light to moderate. That's what I saw out here earlier. Now, it is raining harder than it was, guys, even 7 or 8 minutes ago. You can see the sheets of rain out here at Brickell and the causeway. So 68 hundredths last hour, 79 hundredths the hour before. So we're talking about 1.5 inches of rain or so in 2 hours. And once again, that is going to cause ponding on the roadways. Our heaviest rainfall totals have been north of here, and that's where the flash flood warning is, up near the northern part of Miami-Dade County, Hialeah, Miami Gardens, and north and west of downtown Miami where we are. We're just south of the downtown area of Miami and the skyline. So we're looking at this flash flood warning for that area. That goes till 9:45. Right now, we're under a flood advisory here in this part of Miami-Dade and up towards the areas on the coast, up Federal Highway into Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, under an advisory, a flood advisory, and that right now is scheduled to expire at 8:30. We'll see if they extend that. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that because of what's on the radar. So it's all about rainfall rates and how long it rains that hard. And that, my friends, was a gust of wind that bounced off the causeway here. So Chris, and Jackie, there you go. Heavy rain at the airport, 0.68. And where I'm standing right now, moderate to heavy rain and occasionally some gusts of wind. But as far as standing water, the water coming down the gutter here, yeah, about 2 to 3 inches. So we haven't seen much of an increase. And I walked over to the hotel last hour, and there is some ponding on the roadways like we've seen out here. But so far, no reports from the emergency management folks in this county, Miami-Dade or Broward County, of any significant flooding impacts as far as road closures or anything like we saw in late July and back in mid-April. But the night is not over with yet, and we still have to get this batch of rain through the area before we can let our guard down as far as significant impacts from this particular system, which I think is kind of like a nor'easter off of Florida. It's going to become like a nor'easter off the Florida coast.
All right, Mike, I know you're a man of observations.
We are back live here in South Miami in Brickell on the causeway, watching the rain rotate in around that little spinning dervish. It was what we call an MCV, a mesoscale convective vortex, and that has been rotating rain and heavy rain up our way now through the Upper Keys. You can see the back edge now clearing the Middle Keys where they had over 6 inches of rain today. Fortunately, in those areas, it just runs off to the Florida Straits of the Florida Bay. Up here, we've got all the asphalt and concrete. And the concern was in these urban areas from the Palm Beaches down to Miami that we would have a significant flash flood. That is still a concern. We do have one flash flood warning, the only one that has been issued so far by the Weather Service in Miami. That's for northern parts of Miami-Dade County. That's up near the Broward County line, near the football stadium. That's Hialeah, and then up towards Miami Gardens, North Miami. Those areas are where the concern is for flash flooding. Here we're in the advisory. That's set to expire. We'll check in a minute. They may have extended it recently. That's set to expire in about 10 minutes at 8:30 here in Miami-Dade and also Broward counties. So the offshoot is watching and waiting these rainfall rates. So far, so good. Miami International had 68 hundredths last hour, 79 the previous hour. So in the past 4 hours now, that puts them up at about 2 inches of rain in 4 hours, and that is a heavy rainfall rate, but something that the ground can handle. And what you end up with is the ponding on the streets and, you know, the runoff and some, some standing water here and there. But in this area right now, everything is draining very nicely. Still a fair amount of traffic out here, although we had urged folks to, get home and stay home. Traffic has backed off certainly since the rush hour, since it's now after 8 p.m., but certainly not a night where people are just going home and staying home. That's how it looks right here in Brickell. Chris, still 4 or 5 more hours of at least heavy rain at times in areas, and it's the draining that is the concern, and any additional flash flood warnings, and the potential still certainly exists for a flash flood emergency. That's not off the table at this point, but we'll hope for the best here as we go into the early hours of Thursday morning. This is out of here by tomorrow morning, and then the weekend is going to be exceptional with sunny skies and temperatures around 80. And remember, Chris, how torrid a summer it was. By the way, this is their hottest year on record in South Florida, and they're certainly it's been so warm with many days in Miami between 95 and 99 degrees over the past summer. So it's nice to get down here and enjoy something in the 70s, albeit it's raining.
Albeit it's raining. And Mike, you've been out there for about 4 or 5 hours, maybe longer. Since you've been out there, has anything surprised you? Or has the night played out the way you thought it would to this point?
Well, there was always the question of how much rain we were going to get in a specific period of time, because it really determines how bad the flooding is. And we didn't know. I mean, we had the flood watch up. The Weather Service had the flood watch up. That's up till 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it's just more of a nowcasting situation. We're still doing that. So no real surprises. You come out here and, you hope for the best for the locals and, for people that live in this area, that we don't have a situation like we had in April and again in July with prolific amounts of rainfall, double-digit totals in 4 or 5 hours. And so far, we have not had that as far as I know, based on what I've seen on the Weather Service chat and what I've seen on the internet and the Weather Service pages. We have not had that kind of rainfall totals. Otherwise, we'd have multiple flash flood warnings, and we'd see flash flood emergencies and hear about water rescues. And I don't know what you're seeing back there. I have not read anything about that at this point out here. So it's turned out okay so far, but we're not over with this yet.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, certainly appreciate it. Always good to talk with you, and we are still watching that.